The level of engagement with digital devices, such as smartphones and smartwatches, has been an attractive area of research in the past decade, especially because these devices have become an undeniable part of our daily lives. Think of our daily engagement with notifications that we receive every day. They can be a questionnaire asking us for feedback about a product that we recently purchased. Or they could be a recommendation, for example, our health application suggesting us to do more steps to achieve our daily goal. But aren't these notifications sometimes overwhelming, distracting, or even burdensome? Well, the answer in most cases is yes. But what if we could somehow tailor these notifications such that they are less of a distraction, less of a burden? What if they arrive at opportune moments? Thinking of health and well-being cases, what if we could support these notifications with sensor data such that they're better aware of our situation? Well, all of these wonders has been the focus of my PhD research, as I wanted to make personalized notifications to provide a more pleasant user experience and achieve higher engagement. So I started researching methods of longitudinal data collection, and I found the experience sampling method, or ESM, and its variants to be commonly used in this domain. But what is ESM? ESM is a method to capture and understand behavior, thoughts, and feelings through self-reportings. And these are triggered by notifications that are systematically spread throughout the day. Imagine receiving a notification like, how do you feel 5 times a day? And because this method tries to capture experiences in the moment, rather than retrospectively, it's argued to be ecologically valid. Now, this method is not a panacea. It has problems, such as low response rate and early dropout, as they are well documented in the literature. So these essentially means that the number of submitted self-reports are much fewer than the number of notifications received. And this highlights the challenges related to the compliance with this method. Also, self-reports can be quite subjective, and they could be complemented with objective data, such as sensor readings. To tackle these challenges, I formulated my main research question as how to design an end-to-end ESM system to improve the data validity and compliance of participants to experience sampling method protocols. And by protocol, I mean essentially the number of notifications, number of questions, etc. And I hypothesized that through personalization, it would be possible to find the opportune moments and then in turn increase response rate. And I also wanted to augment the self-report data with contextual data to provide rich research data. Now, to actually do the personalization, I defined 3 main categories by which a notification could be personalized. One is timing, which essentially means the time at which a notification should be delivered. The other one is modality, which means the mode or medium through which a notification is delivered. And content essentially means what's included in a notification and how it is represented. So I started focusing on timing as I wanted to find opportune moments based on context. Well, think of what time of the day it is, or what are the body movement patterns. And also response behavior, which essentially means what were the previous reactions to the notification that one had already received. So to test all these different scenarios on a hypothesis, I realized that I need an agile and versatile research tool that allows me to capture self-report data as well as sensor data. I also realized that smartwatches could be an interesting modality of choice because the new generation of these devices, well, are highly customizable, they're packed with sensors, and they're also affordable. So with the smartwatch as my modality, I introduced Wearable Experience Sampling Method, or WESM, and I published design requirements for this method. I developed Experiencer, a smartwatch application that allows collecting subjective self-report data as well as objective sensor data. Experiencer is context sensitive, meaning it can trigger notifications based on sensor readings. And also, it's remotely configurable. With this tool, I was able to run several ESM experiments, and I learned that there's no one-size-fits-all scheduling. So I wanted to bring my lessons learned from group-level experiments and apply them to individual fine-tuning. And for that, machine learning seemed to be an obvious choice. But I realized that I'm facing a cold start challenge, which essentially means that the learning agents at the beginning of the learning process don't know much or anything about the person that they're interacting with. So that might initiate some random and potentially distracting notifications. And that's what I wanted to avoid all along. So I proposed a warm start approach where I could reuse the historical ESM or experience sampling method data, think of the time of delivery of a notification, time of response, body movement patterns, etc., and then train a machine learning model centrally, and then dispatch it to the edge, to the smartwatches themselves, where they would then be incrementally trained to also capture the peculiarities of each individual. Now, one might wonder, how can I have a warm start for the cases that I don't have a historical data for? Well, for that, I created Sapphire. Sapphire is a simulator that combines historical data, machine learning models, and psychological models. For example, memory accessibility, that essentially means whether somebody remembers to answer a notification or not, while allowing researchers to also encode their heuristics into the simulator, which then in turn enables them to generate or synthesize data needed for a warm start. To make this simulator more accessible for especially non-programming researchers, but also to allow fast prototyping, to expand the core of the simulator, I also created Prompt for Code, which leverages large language models and takes in the input inquiry in natural language and converts it to runnable simulation. Now, with all these different components introduced, I'd like to get us back to the main research question that I presented. And I want to propose as my answer an architecture that is end-to-end and connects the different components that I already introduced to you, from design phase to simulation phase to real-time experiment phase. Lastly, I'd like to highlight my contributions during my PhD. I contributed to free and open source software by releasing 3 software packages, Sapphire, Experiencer, and Prompt for Code, especially with designers and social scientists in mind. These tools were successfully used across 10 funded projects in more than 15 experiments. More than 50,000 notifications were delivered across well above 600 participants. I myself, along with my co-authors, but also other researchers independently from other institutes and universities, were able to collectively publish more than 10 papers using these tools in this domain. Thank you for listening.